에픽게임즈에서 무료로 제공해주는 게임, 이게 3월 27일 AM 1시까지 무료로 제공해주는 게임 중 2개 중 하나입니다. 일단 한글 패치를 해야 돼요. 인터넷에 찾아서 한글 패치를 했고요. 스토리를 한번 보죠.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
나갑시다.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
뭐죠? 가면 됩니까? 잠깐만. 다시 들어갈 수 있나? 생겼어. 갑니다. 일단은 재개하겠습니다. 이건 내가 봤을 건 아까도 그냥 문 열린 대로 가면 될 것 같아요. 에임이 너무 빨라. 누가?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
오른쪽 못 가? 왼쪽 문으로 들어갔다는데? 일단 시나리오대로 문이 닫혔어. 가겠습니다.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
위층의 사장실. 오케이, 갈게요. 문 닫혀버려. 다시 못 돌아가게.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
근데 내려갈 수 있어. 무서워. 올라갈래. 일단은 그 네레이션의 말 따라서 올라가겠습니다. 다치는 거 봐. 놀린 데는 여기.
Staring into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2 845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845. 난 아는데? 2 8
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code.
고마워요,
by
아저씨.
sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
어디 열렸는데? 오, 미치. 아까 그 사장실 안 가고 지하로 내려가면은 바로 반대쪽은 다 스킵인가? 지하에도 똑같이 이렇게 돼 있어. 약간 스킵인가 보다.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
정신지배기관. 문 닫혀버려. 너무 어두운데? 맞습니다, 띵.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
오. 버튼.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
버튼 또.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
427 여기 있다.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
오호, 해제한다고? 오른쪽 왼쪽 1번 여기 4 있고 여기 뭐지? 오호호 5번 일단은 이동합시다.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
그러면은 오프 오 뭔가 움직이는데 아무것도 안 보이는데?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
문 열린 거야? 이거 아닌 것 같아. 문도 사라졌고. 그냥 갑시다. 오.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
뭐야, 게임이 꺼졌어. 뭐야, 종료 엔딩이야? 아하하. 뭐죠? 아니야. 뭐야? 이런 게임이 아니었나 원래? 세이브? 일단은 잠시만. 이렇게 끝이라고? 어처구니가 없네. 약간 아니 근데 게임이 종료된 거는
This is the story of a man named
내가 아까
Stanley.
봤으니까 스킵하겠습니다. 스킵. 자, 나갑시다. 뛰어.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
달려.
When Stanley came to a set
Ah,
of two
왼쪽 안 가.
open
오른쪽.
this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge
아저씨
first,
말 바꾸는 거
just to
봐.
admire it.
말 바꿨어. 안녕 계시.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
없고. 일단 다시 갑니다.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
여기도 있고 선택지가 두 개네. 근데 난 아저씨의 말을 따르지 않겠어. 왼쪽 문? 안 가.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years
아저씨
ago.
말 바꾸는 거 봐.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
그녀를 왜 부탁하는 거라고?
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To
그녀를
let
대체
her back into your life. She's been waiting.
갑자기 스토리가 달라졌어.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her.
띠링띠링.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife? Who wanted to
놀랐네,
make their life
씨.
to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
어이, 개똑같은 아저씨.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
티어. 이.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
H.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Oh.
But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
아이들이 어딨어?
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
저녁은 어디서 차리지? F. 이거 잠깐.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
누르지 말라 그러고.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
죽으세요?
Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
야씨 뭐야? 바뀌었어 필드가. 이번에는 종이가 막 엄청 깔려있어. 뭐야?
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
왼쪽.
he entered the door on his left.
아니야 한 번 더 오른쪽 간다.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
여기.
Wow.
와우.
Yes.
Yes.
This room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
여기로 가야 돼.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
다쳐버리는데?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
2층 사장실.
Coming
이번엔
to a
밑으로 내려가보자.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
아이씨.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream.
똑같은 방만 나와.
What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
젠장.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I
뭐
must
튀어나올까
be
봐
real. I
무서워.
must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
끝? 아, 이게 그냥 엔딩이 여러 개인가 보네. 이번에 종이 사라졌어. 아, 또 가야 돼?
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
왼쪽으로
he
갑니다.
entered the door on his left.
이거를 마지막으로 그만해야겠다. 회의실에는
Yet there was not a single person here either.
아무도
Feeling a
없고요.
wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to
아저씨 왜 그래? 그냥 나가라 그러네? 여기서?
As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
나가.
Coming to a staircase,
오케이.
Stanley walked
화장실로
upstairs to
갑시다.
his boss's office.
화장실에서도 여기도 안 되고.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him, and so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of
845.
course, Stanley couldn't possibly
알
have
턱이
known
없지.
this.
그러면은 뻥.
Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination. If he knew that the combo was 2845, it would be another story entirely. But no, this is what he was going to do instead. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was
내가 영문판을 했으면은 몰랐을 거 아니야. 아닌가? 야야야.
2845.
빨간 글씨로 나와. 일일일일일일일일일. 영영영영영영영.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
야 뭐야? 네가 열어주는 게 어딨어? 개웃기네. 일단 내려갑시다. 내려가. 빨리 내려가자. 저쪽에도 내려가고 싶긴 한데. 난 근데 여기서 마지막에
Stanley realized
오늘 말고 오프를 한번 눌러보고 싶어.
it was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think
오프를
himself,
누르러
to
갑니다.
question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
달려.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word Escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
잔인한 죽음이라니까 못 가겠는데?
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
무서워. 돌아갈래. 무서워. 뭔가 씨. 이 아저씨 실 네레이션 개 무섭네. 다시 돌아갈게. 그 대신 하하하하하하. 얘 좀 심리적으로 너무 게임이 무섭다잉.
Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for.
그래, 죽고 싶진 않으니까. 근데 어차피 뭐라든 죽는 엔딩 아니냐 이거?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
컨트롤러 왜 안기는 왜 있는 거지 이거? 빨리.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them,
이 스탠리가 생각하고 있는 상상 속 그거 아닐까?
meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Blind to the world.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
4번은 뭐지? 이거 나 궁금한 1번도 있나 그럼? 1번도 찾아. (1번) 4번, 5번, 2번. 오케이, 1번, 2번, 2번. 하나. 1번. 3번. 이거 5번인데? 어딘가에 3번? 번. 올라가서 (4번) 마지막 번호인 여기 5번 있어. 뛰어다녔으면 좋겠다. 5번. 다 눌렀는데요? 아, 이거 약간 좀 비밀이 있는 것 같은데. 그러고 싶은데. (6) 오프라인. 그럼 혹시 저기 가서 봅시다. 오프라인이라서 안 되는 건가? 가서 기계를 작동시키러 가겠습니다.
And when at last he found the sword... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do.
짝짝짝.
You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley.
아, 아저씨 캠
You're in for
뭐라는 거야?
disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life? Or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count.
날아간다. 폭파엔딩이다 이거는.
All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say,
안돼. 폭파엔딩. 빵. 아씨. 뭔 게임이야 도대체? 더 스탠리 패러블 여기까지 하겠습니다. 이 게임은 그냥 뭐라고 그래야 되지? 해석하자면은 스탠리의 무하? 막 그건데 대충 제가 몇 번 플레이한 내용으로 봐서는 그냥 스탠리가 이 상황이 막 상상된 상상이라 해야 돼. 자기가 상상한 상황 그게 아니면은 죽었다던가 죽어서 이제 뭐 가길 가는 그런 내용인 것 같습니다. 여기까지 하고요. 못하겠어. 나 아저씨 말하는 것도 좀 무섭다. 해석 보면서 하니까. 여기까지고요. 그 다음 게임 또 플레이 해야 되니까. 이 게임은 여기까지 할게요. 스탠리 패러블 약간 조금 신기한 게임이었어. 좀 무서웠어. 씨 하기 싫어.